Let's look at the factors affecting aggregate supply, or the factors that influence aggregate supply in an economy. The first factor, we already said aggregate supply is also known as like total output, which is the total amount of goods and services supplied or produced in an economy. So let's look at the factors that affect total output. First is technological innovation. If there is innovation in technology or improvement in technology, it will increase on the amount of goods and services produced in an economy, which in turn will increase on aggregate supply. And this is true. Then the second factor is the changes in wages. The changes, a change can increase or decrease. So if there is an increase in wages, it will motivate workers to produce more goods and services, which in turn will lead to an increase in aggregate supply. But in case there is a decrease in wages, it will demotivate workers from working, so they will produce less, which will lead to a reduction in aggregate supply. Then another factor is production costs. In case there is an increase in production costs, things like fuel, in case there is an increase, it will demotivate producers from producing more goods and services, which in turn will lead to a low level of aggregate supply. It will lead to a decrease in aggregate supply. Then in case there is a decrease in the production costs, it will motivate producers to produce, which will lead to an increase in aggregate supply. Another factor to consider is the changes in the size and the quality of labor. If there is an increase in the size of labor, like if there are more workers, it means that there will be an increase in the production of goods and services, and that will lead to increase in aggregate supply. And if there is a reduction in the size of labor, it will lead to a reduction in production, and that will lead to a reduction in aggregate supply. Then in case of changes in producer taxes, that is another factor. If there is an increase in producer taxes, it will discourage producers from producing more goods and services, which will lead to a decrease in aggregate supply. And in case there is a decrease in the producer taxes, it will encourage producers to produce more goods and services, which will lead to an increase in aggregate supply. Then subsidies. In case there are subsidies to producer farms given by the government, it will encourage them to produce more goods and services, which will lead to an increase in aggregate supply. And the last factor is changes in inflation. If there is an increase in inflation, it means that prices are increasing. And when prices increase, supply increases. So it will lead to an increase in aggregate supply. And if there is a fall in inflation, it means that prices are falling. And when prices fall, even supply falls, which will lead to a decrease in aggregate supply. So those are some of the factors that affect or influence aggregate supply or the total output of an economy. We should note the following. First is that total goods produced at a specific price point for a particular period is aggregate supply. The total goods produced is aggregate supply. Then short-term changes in aggregate supply are impacted by increase and decreases in demand, because demand affects supply, by the way. If the demand is high, supply will be high. Then the long-term changes in aggregate supply are impacted by new technology and other factors that we've seen. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment. If you're new here, you subscribe and turn on the notifications so that you always get notified when we upload new videos.